Floating just off the coast of Nagasaki, Hashima Island once rang with the clack of mining carts and the chatter of families rushing to morning shifts. In 1810, local fishermen first noticed peculiar rock formations jutting from the sea, but it wasn't until 1887 that large deposits of coal were confirmed beneath the ocean floor. Mitsubishi bought the island 3 years later and set to work transforming it from jagged reef into a fortress of industry. They built a massive seawall to hold back typhoon waves and, in 1916, erected Japan's first large concrete apartment block, home to the miners and their families. At dawn, miners descended into subterranean shafts by flickering lamplight, while above-ground families drew fresh water, delivered by boat and stored in hilltop tanks. From communal faucets in the stairwells, seawater-filled shared wash areas for laundry, and 3 bathhouses offered miners, their families, and staff a chance to bathe. In tiny 6-tatami mat apartments, women cooked grilled fish, rice, and pickles on single stoves. Children dashed between classrooms in the concrete elementary school. By the mid-1930s, Hashima felt more like a compact city than a mining outpost. Families decorated balconies with potted plants, while children played hopscotch in alleyways. Then came the dark years of World War II. Japan's wartime needs drove production to new heights as coal-powered factories and warships. To meet demand, Mitsubishi began transporting Korean civilians and Chinese prisoners to Hashima as forced labor. These workers endured back-breaking hours in hot, humid tunnels, often falling ill from malnutrition and exhaustion. Their suffering was hidden behind conveyor belts and concrete walls. The island's official population figures did not count them. Estimated death tolls vary. Some say over 100, others more than 1,000. But even the lowest figure casts a long shadow over Hashima's glowing industrial success. After World War II, the surviving forced laborers returned home, and Hashima Island began to transition from its wartime operations to peacetime industry. During Japan's rapid economic growth in the 1950s, coal extraction remained the island's primary activity. By 1959, Hashima Island's population reached 5,259 residents, living within its 6.3 hectares of reclaimed land. Between 1891 and 1974, Mitsubishi excavated around 15.7 million tons of coal via 4 undersea shafts, reaching up to a kilometer deep. To protect against typhoons, the company built seawalls and, in 1916, erected Japan's first large reinforced concrete building, a 7-story miners' apartment block. Over the next 5 decades, additional concrete structures were added, including further apartment blocks, a school, kindergarten, hospital, town hall, community center, clubhouse, cinema, communal bath, swimming pool, rooftop gardens, shops, and a pachinko parlor. During the 1960s, Japan's rapid shift from coal to petroleum as its principal energy source led to the nationwide closure of many coal mines, and Hashima's seams were no exception. By mid-decade, domestic oil production and imports made coal less competitive, and Hashima's output steadily declined. On 15th of January 1974, Mitsubishi officially ceased all mining operations on the island, and over the following months, the company arranged daily ferry services to remove machinery and equipment. By the 20th of April, every one of the 5,259 residents had boarded the last commuter ferries bound for Nagasaki, leaving behind fully furnished apartments and still warm stoves, thus ending continuous habitation that had lasted since 1887. From April 1974 until spring 2009, Hashima stood completely abandoned. In 2002, Mitsubishi transferred ownership to Takashima Town, which was in turn absorbed by Nagasaki City in 2005. That same year, journalists were permitted limited landings, and plans were drawn up for a 220-meter visitor walkway to keep tourists and safely away from unstable structures. Ongoing safety concerns delayed public access until 22nd April 2009, when reinforced walkways and protective fencing opened roughly 5% of the island for guided tours. Even then, tours could operate on fewer than 160 days per year due to harsh weather, and more than 95% of Hashima remains off-limits to protect both visitors and the fragile ruins. In July 2015, the UNESCO World Heritage Committee inscribed Hashima Island as part of the Sites of Japan's Meiji Industrial Revolution: iron and steel, shipbuilding, and coal mining. This group of 23 sites was meant to showcase Japan's rapid industrial rise between 1850 and 1910. However, South Korea, China, and North Korea initially opposed Hashima's inclusion because it was known that hundreds of Korean civilians and some Chinese prisoners had been forced to work there under harsh conditions during World War II. Faced with this challenge, Japan entered negotiations with South Korea. The two countries agreed that Japan would formally acknowledge the use of forced labor at Hashima and other sites in its official exhibits and publications. In mutual understanding, South Korea withdrew its objection just before the UNESCO vote. On 5th July 2015, Japan's representative, Kunisato, publicly committed to incorporate appropriate measures into the interpretive strategy to remember the victims, including creating an information center to document forced labor history. By March 2020, Japan had opened the Tokyo Industrial Heritage Information Center, IHIC, to fulfill its promise. The center was designed to display the full history of each World Heritage component, including wartime labor. Yet UNESCO and outside observers soon noted gaps. Early tours and exhibits either downplayed or omitted testimonies of forced laborers, prompting UNESCO to request more complete content by late 2022. In August 2023, a mission from the UNESCO World Heritage Center visited the IHIC and the sites themselves. Following this review, Japan added a dedicated to Remember the Victim section. New panels include verified testimonies, photographs, and maps explaining how forced laborers lived and worked. UNESCO's advisory bodies praised these steps, while encouraging Japan to continue regular updates and stakeholder consultations, including with South Korea. Today, Hashima remains uninhabited and managed by Nagasaki City. Its rusting apartment blocks and seawall silhouette stand as stark reminders of both industrial achievement and human cost. Relations between Japan and South Korea continue to improve in areas like security cooperation, but historical issues still surface. In February 2025, South Korea publicly expressed regret that recent reports on Hashima and other sites did not fully address forced labor history, indicating that trust building is ongoing. Hashima Island now serves multiple roles: a protected industrial heritage site, a case study in how nations reconcile difficult pasts, and a cautionary emblem of the need to include all voices in the story of progress. In the present world, it represents both the ingenuity of early concrete architecture and the imperative to remember those who labored under compulsion.